Thank you, Angel. Gee, I don't know what to say after all that. That's impressive. I did leave Florida State in 1979 and became the director of the College Counseling Center in a beautiful little suburban campus. It was a smaller school. It was the perfect job. Didn't work that hard. Had time for private practice. Had a nice staff that worked with me. Opportunity to do some personal counseling with people. It was every now and then we had a kid that had more significant illness, and that was interesting work. Did some career counseling. Did personal growth and skill development, and it was a nice, comfortable job. And it just drove me crazy. I really couldn't stand it anymore. Part of that is because I had done a master's level internship at the Danvers State Hospital, which was a state hospital for people with major mental illnesses. And that's really where I felt that my career lied. That was something I was drawn to do, working with disadvantaged people. So I started South Bay Mental Health Center in 1984. Actually, before that, I worked for a mental health center, community mental health center. I figured, well, I better learn how to do this, and worked for community mental health center. And it was a community mental health center that did home-based services, which is something that I have been totally committed to since then. Great agency that went out of business. Went bankrupt, you know. We knew it was going bankrupt when our paychecks were no good. So with 12 other therapists, we started South Bay Mental Health Center, which has grown tremendously in the last 26, 7 years. We wound up doing a lot of outpatient work with pretty much all ages, kids right up through adulthood and seniors. We have a day treatment program for people with serious and persistent mental illness, day programs for kids, adolescents with major disturbances, behaviorally challenged kids, partial hospital programs for folks with serious and persistent mental illness, and early intervention. Early intervention, one of my favorite programs, is for kids birth to 3. About half of our kids in early intervention had developmental delays, and the other half have family challenges. So if your mom is 15 years old, then you're going to need some help. We have kids that are hearing and have 2 deaf parents. They're going to need some help developing language skills. So that was a great program for me. I guess one of the questions that we might ask ourselves, not that, is who, when I talk about the disadvantaged, who I really mean. Who are the disadvantaged? Well, some of this is not a comprehensive list, but the ones that I have been privileged to work with are multi-problem families. Families where the parents are teenagers themselves. Parents who had particular challenges. We've worked with a lot of parents who are developmentally delayed. And disadvantaged families, the poor, the homeless. Folks with serious and persistent mental illness, psychotic disorders, bipolar disorders, major depressions with recurring hospitalizations, personality disorders. Folks who are trauma survivors. We've done a huge amount of work with trauma survivors, abused and neglected kids and adults, domestic violence, kids who have witnessed violence, cognitively challenged. Our early childhood disorders works with kids who have pervasive developmental disorders, kids who are on, I need more juice, most of them are. Maybe I should do this. That better? Oh, yeah. I can hear. Cognitively challenged kids, kids on the autism spectrum disorders, adults who have developmental delays, folks with cognitive rehabilitation. We wound up doing programs for adults who have brain injuries or progressive disease processes that involve their cognitive processing. Substance use, probably 70% of our consumers somehow were involved with substance use, those who themselves were addicts or recovering addicts or families of addicts. And many of our consumers were dual recovery. So they had mental illness as well as substance abuse disorders. We did a lot of forensic services with youthful offenders, gang involvement, reintegration programs, people coming out of correctional facilities, substance use, batterers, sex offenders, families of inmates, sex industry workers, all needed forensic care. We worked with people who had vocational struggles, who are chronically underemployed or unemployed. We did staff job development for people with developmental delays and career development as part of our rehabilitation process. Rehabilitation after a brain injury basically consists of the rehab program getting you to the point where you can breathe on your own, you can stand and walk. That is a total success for them. And that's a huge improvement. But for us, we'd like to see that person work and contribute to society. And most of rehabilitation sort of misses that part. We also look at folks with brain injuries who are able to modulate their impulses and manage emotions and work with memory, of course, which is a current issue. Now, when we did all that, we had to look at different needs. How are the needs of the disabled different than you and I, if you're not disadvantaged? One of the most difficult aspects of working with this population is getting them access to services. How do they actually get in to see someone so that they can get services? Now, you're talking about a family, a mom who doesn't drive, doesn't have a car, she's got 3 kids, they've all been sexually abused. How do you get each of those kids to somebody's office 3 times a week when you're relying on public transportation and one of the kids comes up with a cold or something? It just doesn't happen. So we realized right away, we got to go into their homes and provide services in the homes. 75 to 80% of our services were done in natural settings. We do work in homes, in schools, in residential programs. We worked in correctional facilities, just about anywhere where our clients would be found. And when we started that, we were pretty naive about the process. Couldn't really find too many people who had done it that we could talk to. But we thought, we'll do it and they'll get something. It wouldn't be as good as if they could actually get into my office and sit on genuine naugahyde. But at least they'll get something. We were wrong. It is qualitatively different. One of the first things that's different is I'm seeing people where they live. And that is usually the only place in the world where they have any control. They have never been successful in school. Occupationally, they traditionally haven't been so successful. And this is the one place where they can be in control, even if they're not in total control. I've been to public housing where people were not allowed to hang anything on the walls. This is their home. No, you can't hang anything on the wall. However, it's still your home. You can tell me to leave and I'll leave because you're in charge, it's your house. Now, I come in and I have to set some ground rules. If you leave the session, you can't come back. No telephones, no radio, no television. Nobody comes into the session that isn't part of our group. So, but despite that, this is the one place where you're in charge. That was an empowering intervention, even though we didn't intend it. We got to see where clients really lived. We got to have a taste of their lives. And that is something that never would have happened otherwise. I'm sorry, but I'm a storyteller. I remember going to, I shared a case with 2 other therapists. There were 4 kids in the family. I was treating the 18-year-old boy who was an early onset schizophrenic. And his 2 sisters had been sexually abused by their father. And they had a younger sibling who was doing okay. We did a home family session because they were all in different facilities. My guy was in a day program, and both the girls were in foster care because they just had such behavior problems. And so we decided to do a family session. It was myself, 2 other therapists, mom, the younger child, and mom had remarried to a great guy, stepdad, and was very supportive. So we're all in the session. And one of the girls goes to the bathroom, take a bathroom break, and didn't realize that my client, who was schizophrenic and who had some rather unique problems, had just been in the bathroom. One of his unique problems is he had a certain fascination with feces, and he was a feces smearer. And she went into the bathroom, and she came streaming out of there. She was a little fire plug of a kid, and she came out of there like a locomotive. She just ran through, and she hit him like a steam locomotive, and feet went flying, and trays, and this and that, and everything, and the whole place just erupted in a melee. And it took us, the whole rest of the session was just trying to pick up and trying to stop them from just, she beat the snot out of them. And I remember at the end of the session, oh yes, during the session, Dad's leg fell off. I knew he had a limp, but I didn't know he had a prosthetic. And we're at the end of the session. The other therapists had dragged their kids, the girls, back to the residence, and I was helping Mom clean up. And there she's under the table in the living room trying to pick up the goldfish. And she looks up to me and says, "Peter Scanlon, welcome to my home." I took that seriously. I felt she was welcoming me to her home. I don't think I would have seen that if I hadn't been there in her home. And boy, that was interesting stuff to see. It was that important for me to know about her as a person. It also turns out that in addition to providing a better service by doing home-based service changes you as a therapist. It changed me as a therapist. It changed me in very profound ways that I totally did not predict. Another story. I was doing psychological testing for 3 kids who had been all exposed to lead paint. And so I was sent to do testing because they had some problems in school, and so we were trying to figure things out. So I'm going to their home, which is in public housing. They're up on the 2nd floor, and I'm going up the stairs, and because these concrete stairs, everything is concrete because it's pretty durable. And I get up to the 2nd floor, and the place smells horrible. The stairway is disgusting. It smells like urine. I get into, knock on the door, Mom comes, opens the door, I can step in, and the apartment is spotless. I've never lived in a house this clean. Everything was neat, and it was clean. Our kids were very polite. I remember looking out to the left to the kitchen, and they didn't have kitchen cabinets. It was shelves. But she had taken ribbon and pinned ribbon on the edge of the particle board shelf to no dirty dishes. It was great. I spent the whole day testing the kids. At the end of the day, I was there going over test results with Mom. She gave me coffee, and we're sitting talking, going through the test results. And at the end, I said, I know the woman that runs the Tenants Association here, and she's looking for people like you. And you should join the Tenants Association. Mom said, Yeah. I knew she was not being honest. He said, well, you know, you could really make a difference. And I said, seriously, they need people like you. You could do things like your hallway smells bad. And maybe you could change that. She'd had enough of me. She put her hand on her head and said, you know why that smells bad? I send my kids out to piss in the hall. It keeps junkies from shooting up. Well, that's how I got changed. Who the hell am I to be giving her advice on how she should live here and that she should join the Tenants Association? She lives here. She has figured out how to live here, how to raise 3 boys who were polite and appropriate and worked hard at school, had challenges, but did their best. She ran a perfect home, and I'm telling her that she should join the Tenants Association. That was the beginning of learning humility for me. And the most valuable thing I've learned from working with disadvantaged is humility. I heard someone say a nice capsule of what humility is: not thinking less of yourself, as thinking of yourself less. So I don't think that I was the person by thinking that she should join the Tenants Association. I think I should have thought more of her and what she had accomplished. I should have stood back and admired what she had accomplished rather than trying to give her advice. And that is a huge thing to learn if you're going to work with the disadvantaged.